Welcome back, Fantasy Fam. We really appreciate you tuning in once again. I am with Tedder here.
What's good?
Unfortunately, Mason could not join us today, but he will be stopping by later via Time Machine. We hope you're enjoying football as much as we are, because it's truly great to have football back.
Yes.
Definitely something you can look forward to every week. You know, it's pretty much everything I look forward to nowadays.
Same.
Yeah, I do enjoy making this show too, but man, football is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes fantasy football can be frustrating, though, that's for sure. It's impossible to truly know who's going to go off in a given year or a given week. So just make sure you're not falling victim to that FOMOP, that fear of missing out on points. You know, you can't look at a fantasy week through rose-colored glasses, you know. You play who you play, and you kind of got to deal with what happens afterwards, and don't let it ruin your day.
Yeah. Yeah, don't let it ruin your day. Another thing you don't want to let ruin your day is what ifs when it comes to fantasy football. What if I would have played this guy? What if that? What if this? And, you know, fantasy football is not easy. And one thing I like to do, you know, that kind of mitigates that, you know, barring an injury or a late inactive, is I always set a time every Sunday where I set my lineup, and that is that. I let it go. I don't open the app until 2 o'clock game starts.
Yeah, sometimes when you tinker, a lot of people kind of end up putting the wrong person in when they're tinkering last minute.
Exactly. So yeah, and you know, don't beat yourself up if you happen to have a guy on your bench who goes for 40 and the guy in your lineup goes for 2. Like we said, you can't predict that stuff.
Seriously, you don't know how the defenses are going to play them. You know, like last week, the Chiefs have Tyreek Hill, who's an awesome receiver, but if you have 2 guys on him every play, he's not going to get catches.
Exactly, right? And it's one of those things where you're gonna start your guys every week. Like this week, especially, you know, there's some people who maybe based off of last week saw Derrick Henry struggle and were thinking, oh, they're going against the Seahawks in Seattle. Maybe I don't trust him. And then he goes out and just absolutely goes bananas. So
you always got to trust your studs.
Always. So, you know, none of us are perfect, and it's okay not to be perfect. Just keep having fun. And, you know, fantasy football is fantasy football. It's just educated guessing every week.
Every week, yeah. So we do have some reactions to this last week, just a few. But yeah, Tedder, you want to talk about our Pale Horse Dark Horse watch?
Yeah. I wish Mason was here.
Yeah, seriously.
Because I would love to give him some props because he called this. And Kyler Murray has been an absolute monster. Right? We're 2 weeks in. And I think he's going to continue doing what he does. With that plethora of weapons he has, I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. So, yeah, Mason, if you were here, congrats on the Pale Horse call.
Congrats, Mason. You did a good job with that. We'll see how that goes on throughout the year. But so far, that offense is looking very good.
Yeah.
And then with Kyler Murray scoring multiple touchdowns every week.
Yeah, averaging around 400 yards of total offense by himself. So, And then the next guy that I have a reaction to, or the next 2, but the first one obviously coming from my Denver Broncos. But this one I have to give a nice shout out to old Garrison next to me, Mr. Cortland Sutton, who just absolutely went bananas on Sunday. He's looking like his old self. Obviously, you know, he has a couple more weeks to get a few more rusty things out, but from what I saw on Sunday, Cortland's back, and he's back with a vengeance.
And Teddy's finding him, too.
Yeah, he's looking for him. You know,
12 targets last week.
Yeah, and throwing the deep ball to him, too, which Denver really, really missed last year. So it's nice to have that option back.
That guy, him being that guy that can stretch the field, you know, and they got Noah Fant work in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
They get Jerry Jeudy back. That's going to be a real good offense, I think.
Super excited.
Yeah.
And then the next guy, young rookie, one that I was super excited about to begin the season, Javonte Williams. Every week he looks like he's getting bigger, he's getting stronger, he's getting better. So he's a guy, you know, if you have him in your roster, it looks like Denver is going to continue to split carries between him and Melvin. So I think eventually he'll find some pay dirt. And he's averaging around 50 yards, 60 yards per game right now. And I think he's due to have a big game, and it could come this week against the Jets, who struggled last week. So
they could get up early, too.
Yeah.
And so they're going to run it a lot.
Yeah, which will be good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think he's been very impressive this year so far.
For sure.
Definitely.
What are some reactions you got over there, Garrison?
You know, one guy I do want to talk about who I don't think we really talked about in the preseason, but Brandon Cooks.
Why would we talk about him now?
I know. But if you look, he's had so many 1,000-yard reception years, and he's just such a solid option, and he is looking real good. He's their only passing option.
Yes.
He's averaging over 10 targets and 100 yards a game through 2 weeks, which is really good. So I think you're happy with where you drafted Brandon Cooks.
For sure.
Another guy, Cooper Kupp, looking awesome.
Okay.
I've always loved Cooper Kupp, but it looks like Stafford loves him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes, he does.
He's like his go-to guy. We always kind of thought of Robert Woods as their number one receiver, with like Cooper Kupp being the 1A.
Mm-hmm.
But it's looking like that's kind of changing, and we'll see. Last year he was very streaky.
Yeah.
So if he can continue and be consistent, like, he's going to be one of the biggest steals of the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, and how do you feel about Stafford? I just love seeing him succeed in a place that wants him there with some weapons. I think that's great.
I think Stafford is really going to do good things this year, especially because, for fantasy teams, you got him later, and I think he might, be, flirting with that top 5 quarterback spot.
Definitely.
I think you should be happy if you got Stafford, Cooper Kupp. Another guy you probably are happy with so far is Tyler Lockett.
Yep.
Him and Cooper Kupp are kind of were like this last year, and so I worry that they're going to be streaky like they were last year.
For sure.
Tyler Lockett had like a 200-yard game, and then he was like dead for like a few weeks after that.
Yep.
I think Lockett might be a sell high kind of candidate right now. If you can get something good for Tyler Lockett, because DK Metcalf really hasn't seen his share of targets and his share of yardage. And that's not necessarily going to be the case. Like, Tyler Lockett could emerge as the number 1 wide receiver on this offense, but it's 2 weeks. Once again, you don't want to overreact. I know we're starting to get to see sort of some of this consistency and what some of these guys can do.
For sure.
So we'll see. I mean, if I see week 3 he goes off again, like, I'm going to be like, all right, I'm keeping Tyler Lockett. I'm playing him every week.
Oh, yeah.
Same with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lockett is definitely carving out a role for himself. And Russell Wilson is a very hot-handed type of quarterback, which means he's going to throw to the guy that's getting open and making the plays. And like you said, DK hasn't had the chance to eat yet, and he will. So
we all know DK is going to eat at some point, and the question is can Tyler Lockett eat alongside DK? Because it looks like Tyler Lockett's the only one eating right now. DK's sitting there. Hasn't gotten his food yet. The waiter hasn't brought it over.
Yeah, that's a big man. You don't want to see him hangry. That's all I'm saying. That's a big man.
So yeah, I think that's something I'm gonna keep my eye on, but I think you got him, you gotta start him,
100%.
Almost all of these guys, Javonte, Brandon Cooks probably are more flex considerations and stuff.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see how Davis Mills looks on Thursday. See if he can still get the ball to Cooks. I think he will, because Cooks is an army knife of route running, so he'll get the football for sure.
But, there is a chance that defenses key in on him a little bit more, because he is their only option. They force him to have to run the ball, which, Mark Ingram hasn't been doing too bad with. So
yeah, if you're a Mark Ingram owner, you might want to start him soon, especially if Davis Mills is looking like the starter for a bit. So.
Yeah, for sure. And that defense isn't looking too bad. So they might be getting some good field position and stuff like that. So
Garrison and I have a few pickups this week that we think you should consider as well. I'll get it started. The quarterback position. I'm not going to go too deep because I know Garrison has a lot of guys he wants to talk about as well. But I got 4 guys that I think this week may be worth it if they're still available in your leagues. Starting off with Daniel Jones, which is funny because last week Garrison talked about how much he didn't trust Daniel Jones, and then he came out and set it on fire.
He did, and it's the rushing potential that really intrigues you.
Yeah,
they're gonna do designed runs to him.
That's what I'm saying. He is deceptively fast. So Daniel Jones against the Falcons this week, I really like. So if you can get Daniel Jones on your roster, and he's a better option than what you have, go for it. Next up is Sam Darnold. He'll be a little bit harder this week just because he's a Thursday game, so I'm sure you may not have a chance to grab him by the time that game starts, but going into the future, I'm really excited about the Panthers. I think they got a lot of things to offer. He's got Anderson and DJ Moore to throw to, and obviously, the Swiss Army knife and Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
So Sam Darnold, I think, is on the uptick. Next, Justin Fields getting his first start this week, going against the Browns, who the Browns' pass defense hasn't looked that good this year. So I think they're going to try to get after Fields, pressure him a little bit, but if he can settle down and get the ball to his receivers, I think he might have a big day as well. And he's another guy that you just want to stash.
Yeah, I think he's maybe even just more of a stash. I don't know if you want to play him this week, but hold on to him because, he plays well. Well again next week. Andy Dalton's out, and they're might as well keep him in.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. If he can come out and perform and he can take that starting job, I think down the road he will be more of a matchup-based QB. But, with his legs, he offers a lot more than some guys.
Most definitely.
And then finally, a guy from an 0-2 team, that they haven't played well, but a guy that's going to throw the ball a lot is Mr. Captain Kirk Cousins. He's another guy, if he's in your league, pick him up because, year in, year out, he throws the ball a lot.
Their offense is moving the ball.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of impressive that they can lose both games without they've been able to move the ball.
And they've been scoring a lot of points.
Yeah.
And they've still been losing. So just know that, based on history, they usually are trying to come back from games, which means he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. So if you can get your hands on Mr. Captain Kirk, stash him or play him this week against the Seahawks, who kind of got torched by Ryan Tannehill last week. So if you can get him, play him if he's better than what you have.
These guys are like good people to pick up if you've got some dead weight at the end of your roster too.
Exactly.
Like not all of them you're going to be able to start right away.
Exactly.
And they're kind of maybe more wait and see type of guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Matchup based guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think in deeper leagues, depending on what you have, you might have to play one of these guys.
You might, yeah.
And like Garrison said, they are really good guys that you can stash and hold on to and maybe even use as trade bait later on in the year.
For sure, yeah. Or trade your better quarterback for something you need, and then you got these guys, maybe grab a couple of them and you can play matchups. That's definitely a solid strategy there. I want to talk to you about some running backs that you could pick up in the free agency. I'm going to start off with Zach Moss. I think a lot of people dropped him after a week one of nothing, and then last week he had 10 touches, which is a big uptick from 0.
Yeah.
And he fumbled the ball and they still gave it to him on the goal line. He got 2 touchdowns. So, if you got dropped by somebody, you might want to scoop him up. He's got a lot of touchdown equity, that guy. Devin Singletary's never been a pounder. He's been
100%.
more of like an open field kind of make things happen there guy. So Zach Moss could get some touchdowns, especially in deeper leagues. You might be able to play him, but I think he's more of like a stash because if Devin Singletary gets hurt, he's going to have that like full role, and he might actually end up being like flex worthy. You could get him into your lineup. And that's what a lot of these running backs are. You got Tony Pollard. He looks super dynamic. You could convince yourself to start him if you're in a deep league, but I probably wouldn't go that far right now because Zeke is still going to take so many of those touches. I think he was on the field for like 21 snaps last week. He just got the ball a lot when he was on the field. Yep. So he's one of those guys. If Zeke gets hurt, you've seen how good he can be, and if he gets the touches, I guarantee he's going to score you points. He's gonna be a for sure starter if Zeke catches an injury, or maybe he's just out like 1 week.
Oh yeah.
And then you get to play him,
and
you get like 20 points from him.
Yeah, Pollard could start for a lot of teams in the NFL.
I agree. And we also got Kenneth Gainwell. I know I talked about Boston Scott in the preseason. I didn't really know this Gainwell guy. Boston Scott looked good, but apparently they love Gainwell a lot more. Boston Scott was a non-factor first 2 weeks. No touches at all, no targets. And so the backup role to Sanders is clearly Gainwell's. And Sanders missed 4 games last year. So if you got Sanders, you should probably grab Gainwell if you can. And, if you got a little extra room at the end of your bench, you might be able to grab him, use him as trade bait, or, once again, an injury might launch him into starting consideration.
For sure. Well, let's move on to the old wide receivers. Thank you for the running backs, Mr. Garrison. We're talking about wide receivers now.
You're welcome.
Talking about Broncos again. What a surprise. Jerry Jeudy went down week 1. So there's a couple guys. Both I think could be serviceable between Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler. But I think Tim Patrick is the one that you want to grab. Unless you're in a deep league, then I don't think you can be wrong either way. The only reason why I say Patrick is because he is a red zone monster. Teddy has thrown to him twice now in the red zone. He scored both times, back-to-back weeks. And he's, he's essentially like a Cortland Sutton 0.02 or 0.2, or 2.0. There it is. Goodness, numbers are hard. The cool thing about KJ, though, is if you do have him and you do play him, he has a chance to catch the deep ball. And he might get in the end zone. He might score a lot of points on a week-in, week-out basis if Teddy can get him the rock. But I think Tim Patrick's a safer bet. Moving on. Looks like a kind of a breakout candidate in Rondale Moore down there in Arizona. Had a big game this last week, 7 catches, 114 yards, 1 touchdown. So I think he's another guy. If you're able to grab him, go grab him. Kyler Murray spreading the ball around like hotcakes. So I think Rondale Moore is a guy that you can not plug and play. He's a flex option.
Yeah, I don't think you want to throw him right in.
No.
Because they do have A.J. Green.
Yep.
They do have Christian Kirk.
Yep.
He made a phenomenal catch on third down in that game. So, they've got other good guys. So we'll see how included he is going forward.
Yeah, Rondale Moore, I think, is a guy you temper. And he's also a guy whenever you get to the bye week period that you can probably plug in and maybe be safe if he keeps up this type of consistency. But he hasn't been seeing the ball a lot. He's got 11 targets in the last 2 games, which is pretty impressive for the amount of mouths Kyler Murray has to feed down there in Arizona. Another guy that we kind of thought about today, KJ Osborne. He's one of Kirk Cousins' weapons. Mm-hmm. Kind of a newer face there. But he's gotten 15 targets in the last 2 games, which that's a lot when you think about an Adam Thielen and a Justin Jefferson taking targets away.
Right.
And he's also scored a touchdown. So he's another guy, similar to Rondale Moore. Temper it out, see how it happens, because he could fade off. But if he keeps up this consistency, he's a guy in those later weeks that you might want to plug in and play. Wide receiver 3, flex option type. Moving on, Michael Pittman out of nowhere with the Colts. He's another guy, had a really big week. Same type of thing. He's more of a wide receiver 2 up there in Indianapolis. So he's a guy that you week to week matchup based, you could put in as a flex type guy if you need it. But
I think him and Pascal, it's hard to tell who's going to emerge as like the guy right now. But
exactly.
I think one of them will, or they'll kind of share it. Yeah. You play him, you might get a good amount of points.
Exactly. And the thing you got to watch now is that the quarterback happened to roll both ankles. I don't know how you do that, but watch that. I think it's going to be Eason probably to start.
Yeah, they kind of like him, but we'll see. I mean, it's probably a for sure downgrade from Carson Wentz.
Oh, 100%. And then finally, last receiver, a guy I'm excited about, an ex-Bronco, ex-Saint, Emmanuel Sanders in Buffalo. Right now, he's out snapping Cole Beasley. He's behind Diggs in snaps or on-the-field presence. And I think as soon as him and Emmanuel Sanders garner that chemistry that they're working towards, not him and Josh Allen, not Emmanuel Sanders, that's who I'm talking about. I think he will also be a guy that you could probably play, matchup based, week in, week out, see how that evolves first. But I do see some big things coming for Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's out there in a lot of leagues, so might be a good person to grab, and especially if he's going to get that role in front of Cole Beasley.
100%.
And then a couple defenses that have shown out at the beginning of this year. We got the Panthers D. They seem like the emerging defense this year. I know they did pretty good last year, but they're locking folks down. Mm-hmm. So I'd keep my eye on them to see if they're available, especially if you have one of those not so good defenses. And then the Saints, they're probably not really available, but if you could check and see if they're available. I know they are kind of high percentage owned, but especially in a more shallow league, you might be able to grab them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next up, we're going to be doing our Dream Stream.
Dream Stream. And what we mean by that is streamers each week. And by streamers, we mean guys that you can plug and play, but you're not necessarily going to keep on your roster for long term.
Yeah, they're probably playing a bad defense.
Yeah, it's all matchup based. Yes. So I'm going to do QBs and wide receivers for y'all. QB, I just kind of mentioned, Daniel Jones. They're going against the Falcons, who have just struggled mightily all year. That's a great pick, I think. And I think, if I can remember, the Giants are at home. So that should be a good game for Daniel Jones to come out and continue this progress that he's making with himself. And I'm hoping he gets Saquon Barkley involved this week. Maybe want some dump downs. So we'll see. Another guy, I'd be hard to remiss because this is the Bronco episode for Tedder, Teddy Bridgewater. He has balled out these last 2 weeks. He's thrown no interceptions. He's taking care of the football. He leads the league right now in attempts over 20 yards, which means he's trying to stretch the field. And they get the Jets for their home opener. And those Broncos fans haven't been a mile high for a year.
Oh, yeah.
So Zach Wilson's going to be rattled. Denver's defense can get after him. So I think Bridgewater's going to be on the field a lot. And he loves throwing to the receivers. He's spread it out. He's hit 9 receivers in back-to-back weeks, so he loves spreading the ball around. And he's going to get the job done. So Teddy Bridgewater, Daniel Jones, 2 quarterback streams this week. I'm super confident in. Moving on to the wide receivers. Starting with, actually, Daniel Jones, what seems like one of his favorite targets this year, Mr. Darius Slayton, going against the Falcons. I think he'll have another big week. Obviously, last week, I think he wants to make up for that outstretched touchdown that he missed. But he seems to be getting open. He's a big target, and he has really good hands outside of if he has to reach, Inspector Gadget it.
Pretty hard catch.
Yes. Yeah. You need Inspector Gadget go-go arms for that catch. Another guy, an oldie, one of I think Garrison's guys that he was talking about with his old folks home fantasy team he was talking about is AJ Green, who has played pretty well. Yeah, still minds don't forget, Garrison. AJ Green is another one. They're playing against the Jaguars, who Cortland Sutton just had a monster day against the Jaguars, and they're similar body types, both big, both have good hands, both can stretch the field. So I see AJ Green being a nice plug-and play this week if you need a receiver.
Yeah, and maybe catch a touchdown.
Yeah.
He caught one last week.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Big
saying.
body in the red zone.
Yeah. And then another guy for the Colts that I already talked about, Michael Pittman. I think him or Pascal, either one would be all right. But I think Pittman against the Titans. Titans secondary is god-awful. I think they're kind of hoping for Caleb Farley to come back, but he's not coming back this week. And I see Pittman having another big week. I think he wants to pick up from where he was last week, pick up where he left off, pick up that torch and keep it moving. And then next, another Bronco, Tim Patrick against the Jets. Tim Patrick against the Jets, all I have to say for that. Then Emmanuel Sanders, another one that you can plug and play. I don't know who the Bills have this week, but I'm excited because Emmanuel Sanders is seeing a lot of on-field play. He's only behind Stephon Diggs when it comes to receivers on the field. And I think this may be the week that him and Josh Allen finally get on the right page. So Emmanuel Sanders, another one. If it's available this week and you need a receiver, whether it's a flex play or a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, depending on your league, Emmanuel Sanders, go get him.
And they play Washington.
Oh, and they play Washington.
And the Giants move the ball so well against them.
Yeah, all you got to worry about is, keeping Chase Young and them at bay. And then if you give the quarterback time, that secondary is pretty suspect. So cool. Well, Garrison, what you got?
Well, I don't know if you've heard of this guy, but Christian McCaffrey, he's my dream streamer of the week.
Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, so if you can pick up Christian McCaffrey and play him this week, I don't know how I feel about him season long.
Yeah,
but,
it's kind of suspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can find him in the free agency this week, I tell you what, you grab him and start him.
Play him.
Yeah.
Okay? Fantasy analyzation right there. All right. So in all seriousness, one guy, there's not a lot of good plug and play running backs out there right now. So these guys are kind of people that you might already have on your roster or somebody might already have. But if you can find them out there, I'd grab them and maybe play them if you need running back help. Naheem Hines, though. So he is going to be a good flex option, I feel like, this week if you need him. I think this is the week to start him. He's playing a struggling Tennessee defense, and people have been able to throw all over them, and they line him up outside. They dump it off to him, and I could see this being a good week for him.
Well, they kind of use him like James White.
Yeah.
Up in New England.
Speaking of James White, if he's available, grab him and play him. He had 6 receptions in each of his first games. Damian Harris is the only other back that's really getting consistent work there. And their wide receivers really aren't that good. James White is kind of their best receiving option.
Yeah, he really is.
So if you've got him, now might be the time to start him. Obviously, if you have somebody better, play them. This is just if you really need somebody to fill in. And then this guy might be a little controversial. Ronald Jones.
Oh, Rojo.
Rojo. So it's make or break time for Ronald Jones. And so they're playing a stout Rams secondary. I really could see them trying to run the football a lot. And Leonard Fournette is more of their kind of pass catching back. And it's more of a desperate play, to be honest. But if you do need somebody to fill in, you got Ronald Jones on your roster. You can pick him up. You need a running back to fill in. I really think he could be like a 10-point kind of guy this week. He might need to fall into the end zone for something like that, though, probably.
Yeah, outside of Aaron Donald, that front seven, it really isn't as daunting as it used to be.
Yeah, and I think, you just kind of run away from Aaron Donald.
Yeah, you find 99 on the field and you run the opposite direction.
Yeah, so, we saw the Bears have success with that. And who did they play last week?
I can't remember. Who did they just play? I can't remember. It's escaping my mind.
The Colts.
Yes, you're right. It was the Colts, and Jonathan Taylor had a pretty good day.
He had actually not really, not great. Yeah, but the Colts also struggle in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
so, with Ronald Jones, they do have to respect the passing game there.
Yeah, and the Rams are giving up 4.7 yards per carry. So
yeah, that's pretty good, And Ronald Jones, if he's gonna come through, it's gonna be this week. Because if not, he's gonna lose his job.
100%.
And so another group of people I want to talk about is tight ends.
Okay.
So I think Jared Cook might be a good streamer. He's available in a good amount of leagues out there. 13 targets through 2 weeks, and they're playing the Chiefs, so they're going to have to throw to keep up with them.
Yes.
So I think he'll be a good dream stream. Dawson Knox, you're kind of banking on a TD for him. He might be a good pickup too, a little stash guy. The Bills have had very limited offense these first 2 weeks. They scored 35 points last week, but it didn't seem like a lot of people ate. So I'm thinking, Josh Allen gets on track. He'll throw the ball to his tight end, which is Dawson Knox.
Also, what a great name.
Yeah, seriously, I like that name.
Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox. Another guy is Njoku, David Njoku for the Cleveland Browns. So Jarvis Landry is out, which leaves a lot of short and intermediate targets available. If you are desperate for a tight end, he could be a solid option. I could see him getting like 5 targets and maybe a touchdown. The one thing with Njoku is, you'd probably rather have Austin Hooper. I would rather have Austin Hooper. He's not probably available. Njoku's probably the one that's available. Definitely a little risky, but I could see it being a good game for him.
For sure, and I think there's probability that Odell might be coming back, so that can help open up the top of the field and open up those intermediate routes.
Exactly. Odell, if he plays this week, he's not really going to take away those targets in the middle of the field and the short routes. He's doing more long stuff.
And to finish off with a couple of defenses that I'm excited about for the Dream Stream. First off, we got the Cardinals taking on the old Jacksonville Jaguars. We saw what Denver did to Jacksonville, and I feel like the Cardinals can pick up where Denver left off. Trevor Lawrence is still trying to find his footing as an NFL quarterback, and they're still trying to find their identity as an offense. So take advantage early on against teams that are going to play Jacksonville. Next, I got the Raiders. Raiders defense going against the old Miami Dolphins. Similar things, they're playing a new quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, who's going to be starting for the Dolphins this week. First week is Tua's out. And I think the Raiders will take advantage of that, get after him like most defenses do against a backup. Unless it's Taylor Heineke, and then, you gotta worry about it a little bit because he's a baller. And then finally, I got the Giants defense against the Falcons. Giants are at home. Falcons offense looks like they can't do anything unless they're coming back from a game. And I think the Giants have the capacity to shut that offense down from quarter 1 to quarter 4. And I think it's going to be a close enough game to where the Falcons aren't going to be throwing the ball a lot in the fourth quarter like they have been. So I think, take one of those 3 teams if you have a defense that matchup-wise doesn't look great. So Giants, Raiders, Cardinals.
Yeah, for sure. And these Dream Streams, they're all players that you should consider if you need somebody.
Yes,
Don't play them in front of your studs.
Exactly. Yeah, they're pickup guys and they're matchup-based guys and they're weekly serviceable guys.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So next we're going to be doing our positional leaders and our sure thing. Sure thing, bud. So the positional leaders are who we believe is going to score the most points in their position this week. And then sure thing is going to be a spread or an over-under that we believe is a sure thing. That, you can't lose with. And obviously we are not 100% on that so far. Tedder's was right week 1 as well as Mason, but we all lost last week, and I lost week 1, so I got some work to do. But positional leaders, right now, Tedder has 2. Tedder picked up another one with Derrick Henry last week. Mason and Tedder both got Kyler Murray week 1, and I got Kyler Murray last week. The rule with that is that you cannot pick the same player 2 weeks in a row for a position.
All right.
Great. So, Tedder's going to go first. Tedder, who are your positional leaders and your sure thing?
Well, I'm going with a guy that just came off a big-time win, Mr. Lamar Jackson at the QB position, taking him against the Lions this week. I think he's going to continue to feast, and I think, he's just taken off this year. Next, I got the number 1 option for the Las Vegas Raiders, Darren Waller, going against Miami. I think Derek Carr loves going to him. I think Darren Waller is also going to have a Thanksgiving-style feast against the Dolphins. And then next, at the running back position, Garrison's stream of the week, Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, Christian McCaffrey himself.
Yeah, like we said, if he's available in your league, we have questions about your league. But anyways, he's going up against the old Houston Texans Thursday night, and I think he's absolutely going to go off against them. I love me some C-Mac, a Stanford Cardinal running back. Props to my dad, but C-Mac is going to have a big day on Thursday. And then finally, a receiver who I think they're going to force the issue to, Justin Jefferson of the old Minnesota Vikings. Seattle secondary looks suspect, and I think they're going to do to him Jefferson what they did with Julio Jones with the Titans and just force feed him the ball. He's a matchup nightmare, and I think Jefferson is finally going to have his coming out party this week.
Hopefully they don't take a touchdown away from Jefferson like they did to Julio. That was dirty.
Yeah. So I think Jefferson, is going to have a breakout. This will be his breakout game, and go Jefferson. What about you? Oh, wait, sorry. My sure thing. Sure thing. Saints at New England. And I'm taking the under 43 points this week. I'm just don't have faith in my guy Jameis this week. I think, Bill Belichick has a good job of shutting down quarterbacks historically. And I think New England's still trying to find their footing. So I don't think combined they won't score more than 43 points. I think they'll score under that. So that's my sure thing.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I will go ahead with my positional leaders this week. I'm going to stick with the same quarterback you did.
Let's go.
Lamar Jackson, who looked great last week. Did some dirty work against the Chiefs in the second half.
Oh, yeah. Big trust.
Yeah. I think he probably got a little upset. So many people just call him a running back, Mm-hmm. He's the best running quarterback I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he still can throw the ball. And I think anybody that says he can't has not been watching.
I agree.
And, he is playing a very suspect Lions defense that just got torn up 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. We're going to move on to my running back. She's going to be Aaron Jones versus the 49ers.
Ooh, who would have guessed? Garrison picking a Packer.
Garrison's picking a Packer. Love the way he looked last week. I think they will continue to stay on the ground for a good amount of the game. I mean, I'm sure they'll pass it too, but they starting with running is clearly a good step for them. And then also, Aaron Jones is involved in the passing game. Got 3 reception touchdowns last week, so
yeah, he went off.
He can get some yardage and some TDs. I think I could see him becoming the number 1 running back this week. And then wide receiver, I got DeAndre Hopkins versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not afraid of that defense. Love Kyler Murray. They've got a lot of options there too, so he won't see all the coverage. They got to cover some other people too.
Yep.
And he is a stud. And then my tight end, another stud, Travis Kelce.
Ooh,
almost won with him week 1.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to go with him against the Chargers.
Oh, yeah.
I just think you really can't go wrong with Travis Kelce.
Oh, yeah. Like McDonald's. Garrison's loving it.
I am loving me some Travis Kelce. All right. My sure thing is going to be the Raiders with -4 against the Dolphins.
Okay.
So I think they'll win by more than 4 points.
I agree.
I really don't see the Dolphins as much of a threat right now, especially with a backup quarterback. The defense does not look as good as we were hoping it would be going into this year, and the Raiders' defense is looking much better than people thought they were going to be.
Yeah, and if you have some expendable income, go ahead and put your money down on the Dolphins.
Yeah, seriously.
Because we know Garrison can't pick.
You should probably just go ahead and just use. Actually, a couple of my friends used to say that. They're like, "Who are your picks this week?" We're going to pick the opposite.
It seems to be historically accurate, so.
I'm going to start getting some. Trust me. Big trust, okay? Big trust.
Oh, goodness.
Awesome. And we also have Mason from A Time Machine coming back from the past to tell us who his sure thing and his positional leaders are.
Welcome back, Mason.
Mason.
All right. We'll start with my sure thing for the week. I'm picking the Packers to cover against the Niners. They're playing in San Francisco. I think they're going to keep the momentum rolling. 3.5 points. They're going to win by a touchdown or more. Really take care of business. So that's my sure thing for the week. And then my positional leaders, we're going to start with no one on those 2 teams. But I'm going with Dalvin Cook for my running back against the Seattle Seahawks. We saw a lot of points last week with who the Seahawks played. And then DK, that same game, is going to be my wide receiver. I think he's going to score a lot against the Vikings defense. So we got Dalvin at running back, DK at receiver. Now that I didn't pick Kyler last week, he's against Jacksonville this week. I think it'd be foolish not to pick the guy who scored the most the last 2 weeks and my pale horse. So we're jumping back on Kyler. For tight end, it's a little more interesting. A guy I don't think any of us have picked yet. Mark Andrews against Detroit. Mark's a really good tight end. He's looking good again this year. I think he's due for a couple touchdowns, some yards, some receptions. I was having a hard time between him and Kittle, but since I picked the Packers to win, we're going with Mark Andrews against the Lions for my tight end. Those are my picks this week, keeping it short and sweet and in the past tense. We'll send it back to the future.
All right. We just want to thank Mason for bending space and time to be here with us today.
Thank you, Mason.
Really appreciate that. Thank you for watching the show today. Keep it real.
Keep it fresh.
See you next week, fam.